and welcome to my little book club. I am so happy to have you, but I am so sad that I just found out that my fan is very audible on my little microphone, and so I had to turn it off. So, yeah, I'm gonna mourn that for a minute because I've got a very warm puppy sleeping on me, and we have had a heat wave for over a week here, and I am so over it. Like, I'm not made for this much sun. Look at me. This is me tan. I'm not kidding. Look. That's my leg. I'm not made for this. I've just been hiding inside, but it's getting hot inside now because we don't have air conditioning. No one here has air conditioning because it's not supposed to be hot. The French have it worse though, so there's that. It's good. And I live in a spot in Germany that's like, it's been consistently hot, but it's not like unbearably hot. Well, I don't like it, but it's been less bearably hot elsewhere. So, anyways, the book we're going to talk about today is something that got me very excited about a new series, and it had me feeling the way I used to feel when I was like a teenager and I would swallow a whole book series in a week. And I loved that. Yeah, it's great. And I'm reading the whole series, and I fully plan to do videos on books 2 through 7 are out right now, I think, and there's going to be an 8th one. I'm already so excited for it. I'm just excited. Anyways, all right. This book, though, is When the Day Comes by Gabriel. I think Gabriel sounds more feminine. I don't know. Gabriel Meyer. All right. So the general premise of this whole series is that the main character, or sometimes main characters, have like a gene, I guess, or like some sort of thing that makes them have essentially 2 lives. So in 2 different times. So they like simultaneously are born in 2 different places in time. For Libby, our main character in this one, it's 1774 colonial Williamsburg and 1914 Gilded Age New York City. Every time she goes to bed in one life, she wakes up in the other. So she never like misses a day in one, she just lives in both. And I find that so fun. It's such a fun premise. I love time travel, and this is so fun. On her 21st birthday, she has to like choose one life, and then she will die in the other. So that's really like, it just makes it very interesting. And yeah, I just find the premise so fun. I love time travel. I love this premise. And this author also chooses such fun times. Like in one book, for example, the book I'm reading right now, book 4, she is in 1727, like in the Bahamas, like, you know, like pirate area and stuff, and it's so fun. Like, isn't that so fun? I love this. And in one of the books, I think part 3, they're like in Salem for the witch trials, which I feel like it's wrong to say fun, but you know what I mean. Like, it's exciting. Anyways, also these are impeccably researched, but we're gonna get to that later. First, the dress. What am I planning for the dress? I don't really know yet, so I'm going to put in a little video from Future Charlie, because I'm sure she can tell us, right? I hope so. Hello, it's Future Charlie. So, I am here to tell you about the dress we're going to make. The dress we're going to make is, we're going to go for a sort of tablecloth vibe. Like embroidered tablecloth with little flowers, because I was thinking about what am I going to take away from the book, what am I going to remember from the book, and I think the thing I'm mostly going to take away from it is how much it made me feel like close to my faith, which is quite lovely, I think. I don't know, I just loved how the author sort of used the plot to show God's plan for us and how it is good, and that made me think of one of the Bible verses that I always really liked, which is Luke 12:27, and the part that I especially thought of was consider the wildflowers, which is essentially, now if you're not Christian, it's essentially just about how God will take care of us and how we should look at the wildflowers and remember how he takes care of them and how much he provides for them without them ever worrying about being taken care of. And I think that sort of really fits this book, or the plot of this book, and it's always a good reminder. So that is what we're going for. We're going for a floral tablecloth that reminds me of that Bible verse, but as a dress. Also in just about the lightest fabric I could find because it's so hot. All right. Okay, back to this book. So Libby lives in 1774 Colonial Williamsburg, well, one of her lives, that's where she lives, with her mother and her younger siblings, and her mother and her are running a public, like, printing press that her father used to run, but he died now, and now they're running it, and so it's, they're women running this, and so that's kind of tough. Libby loves this life. Her mother has the same ability as her, like, she used to go back and forth between times, and then decided to stay in Colonial Williamsburg, even though I think her other life was in, like, the 90s? The 1990s. We later found out, like, why she stayed, and it's very interesting by itself as well. But, yeah, so Libby thinks this is where, like, her purpose is, this is where she's supposed to be, and she also has this boy that she's in love with, whose name I forgot. Henry Montgomery. Yeah, she's in love with Henry, who's a lovely stand-up guy. I love that guy. And yeah, it's just, she has everyone in these books has a great sense of, like, duty, and she thinks this is where she's meant to be, this is where she's going to be helpful, and, like, this is also where, like, the family that she loves is, even though she has another family in 1914, but in 1914 she has a very loving father that she will miss, but she has this mother that is awful. She is horrible. I forgot her name, but she is horrible. And she, in 1914, is forcing Libby into this marriage with this rich aristocrat. So in 1914, she's a dollar princess. I don't know, if you don't know what a dollar princess is, because maybe you haven't obsessively listened to history documentaries every time you sewed for the last, like, 10 years. Around, like, the turn of the century, there were a lot of British aristocrats that didn't have enough money to keep up their, like, aristocratic lifestyle in England. So they had the big houses, they had the titles, but they didn't actually have any money. They were bankrupt. And so they needed money, and who had money? The, like, newly rich in Gilded Age America. So these aristocratic boys would go to America and get themselves a rich American girl, and the family of the rich American girl would essentially get, the prestige of the title out of this, and the fact that they can say, oh yeah, our daughter is a duchess or whatever, and the girl's dowry would pay for the, upkeep of these aristocratic houses and lifestyles. I think the probably most popular example of this, like popular real life example of this, is Consuelo Vanderbilt. I think that's her name. She was married off into an absolutely miserable marriage by her mother, who I think that this, like, 1914 part is very much inspired by Consuelo, because definitely the way the mother in this is manipulative is definitely inspired by that actual story. That's sort of where all the conflict lies. She's getting married off in 1914, and she's sort of going kicking and screaming, but she can't postpone it until after her 21st birthday, when she would just not be there anymore. So that is, like, a main part of the conflict, at least in 1914, and in the 1770s, there's a lot of conflict around, like, trying to feed her family, because they're sort of, they're poor, they have a bunch of debt from her father, and also the fact that Henry is supposed to marry another girl, and she thinks she can't have him. I will say that the romance that this author sometimes writes, so there are exceptions to this in my eyes, but in this book, at least, the romance isn't really sweep me off my feet romantic. They're two people that I really want them together. Like, I care for them being together. Really badly want them to be together. But it's not the most sweeping of romances. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be. I just don't know if it's supposed to be more sweeping, or if it's just supposed to be sort of a side thing. I mean, it is, like, central to the plot, the romance, but they're not, like, I'm not gonna go to them if I want something, like, really cheesy and, like, romantic like that. It's a central part of the plot, but just not the thing, I think. But I very much care for them being together. I will also say, so this is Christian, and I think this is one of the best Christian historicals I've read, or just in general Christian books I've read, because I feel like it very seamlessly fits into the story. Like, it doesn't at all feel preachy. I think you could have a very fun time reading this even if you weren't Christian. While their faith is, central to, like, their decision making in their lives, it doesn't at all feel like, sometimes I feel like authors just put in prayers or, like, mentions of God or, like, talks of God just to fit into a genre. And it sometimes really doesn't feel natural. It's just like, it's one of those, I don't know if you know this, but if you ever were in like church youth things like Bible study lessons or something, it's very much like those supposed to be relatable stories that they tell you, but they really aren't very like, they're trying to be like youth. They're trying to be like for the young folks, and it's always kind of like, okay. And that is not what this feels like at all, but that is what I think. Would you like a snack? What I think sometimes these books feel like, and I really appreciate that. Here you go. It doesn't feel at all performative. It just like makes like sense for these people's lives, and yeah, it's really seamless and lovely, and it really just spiritually gave me a lot of good feelings about God's plan and stuff. It was lovely. It also doesn't shy away from heavy topics, which I really like. I feel like sometimes these sort of Christian romances or like sweet romances very much fall into the pitfall of being like too scrubbed down, like too polished, makes a lot of things like taboo, and that's not what this book is like at all. But also, there's one other Christian author that I think does this in a horrible way, but this author does it in a really good way. The heavy topics don't at all feel exploitative. They feel like it would just make sense for it to be there in this story at this point, but it's not like, it's essentially sort of like, it's gonna sound weird, but it's a little bit like closed door trauma. So it's like there, but it's not. There's a word I want to say, but I don't think YouTube will let me. So it's not exploitative. It's not just for like the shock value. It makes sense in the story, and it does. While I will say that I had trouble reading two of the scenes in this book, they were pretty tame in their description. It's still, for me personally, but I'm sensitive about this, I get triggered by it. I don't think it's really going to trigger you if you don't actually have like a thing about that. But yeah, it felt earned, and it didn't feel exploitative. It just makes sense in the story, I think. Also, one of the best plot twists I've read in like the last couple of years genuinely caught me by surprise, because I will say that one thing that this author does that I think is really good is she is kind of reckless with her characters. Not everyone will make it out of this, and you will get a happy ending, at least so far in everyone. It will not be like the exact happy ending you wanted, which I think is by design, because I think she's trying to get across like God's plan is, maybe not exactly what we wanted, but it is perfect. It's just not the perfect happy ending that I think some other romances now have, and I really like that. I think it's really good. But yeah, that's why I was like, I'm genuinely on the edge of my seat in these books, because it's like, I don't fully know who's gonna make it out of here alive and in what way. And yeah, I think that's really good. Okay, I will heavily spoiler from here, so please skip. Please read this. It's very fun. Even if you're not religious, I think you'll have fun reading this. Like, I would recommend this to someone who's not religious, and not in like, oh, I'm trying to convert you away, but like genuinely, it's just a really good book. So one of the plot twists and one of the more heavy scenes is she gets essayed by her husband in 1914, and it's like horrific, but then she falls pregnant. It's like, okay, so like she can't die in this life because there's not enough time to fully go through the pregnancy, so she will have to stay there. I mean, not like physically have to stay, she would have the choice to die in the other life, but yeah, she decides she's gonna stay. And she also but she knows she's gonna miss Henry, and she finds out, she looks up what's gonna happen to Henry while she's pregnant, and she finds out that Henry's gonna be like one of the first people to be executed for treason in the American Revolution by the British. And she decides, so in this book, if you change something in one timeline, like if you purposefully like try to alter history, you die in that life. And so she decides Henry is worth dying for, and she decides she's going to sacrifice her love for Henry for this baby and for Henry to live. And it is so heartbreaking when she goes to Henry, she tells him don't do a certain thing, and then she goes home to her mother, and like her mother sings her to sleep, and I'm starting to cry right now. And like her mom sings her to sleep, and then she dies in that life. And it's so sad, but it's like, it's a beautiful sad because she's done it and she's like at peace with why she did it, and it's beautiful. And I was like, oh no, this is gonna be about her like love for this child. And I was terrified that that's what, that we were just gonna lose Henry. But then she finds out later that Henry did die in the American Revolution, like very early on. He got executed. Then at the very end, she finds out that Henry was also a time traveler, and he is like, they find each other after years. And it is so beautiful. It made me cry. And it's such a beautiful way of ending it. And then she finds out that her mother had been writing a journal for her so she would know what happened. I'm sorry, I'm such a crybaby. I'm always a crybaby. I'm just normally not filming myself. Yeah, so that she would know what happened to her siblings and her mother, and it's beautiful. These books are beautiful. Read them. All right. Anyways, I hope I have the dress done, and I don't even know what dress it's gonna be. But it's definitely gonna have light fabric because I am so hot. And yeah, let's look at the dress together. Alright, here is the dress. Yeah, this is the dress. I really like it. I love how thin it is. I did not film any of like the skirt embroidery. There's some on the back too, because it almost made me cry. My machine, which is usually like fantastic, but a number of unfortunate things happened, and it started eating the like it like curled up the thread, and then it ripped a hole into this one here, and I almost cried. And then I tried to fix that. I had to take apart my machine, and then it just it took me, this embroidery, like all of it, I'm not kidding, it took me like 6 hours. Probably more, honestly. 6 or 8 or something like that. It was a little much. But here we are. And I like it. And sadly, I like it so much that I'm probably gonna do it again. I feel like a little tablecloth. And isn't that the dream? Anyways, yeah. No, I like this. I love the book. And yeah. Yeah. Anyways. Alright. I am so excited to see you next week, friend.